Hi guys, and welcome. I am Enigmius, and this is episode 19 of the Builder's Guide to Feed the Beast. It's also part 4 of our REDPOWER 2 mini-series, and part 2 of our focus on automated sorting and processing. Now, if you remember in the last episode, we were looking at the thermal expansion machines and trying to figure out how to get the output from the machines out and back into our network somehow, whatever we ended up doing with it. But one of the problems that we had is that we couldn't get the REDPOWER 2 tubes to connect to the machines. Now you can see I've got them connected, and this is thanks to King Lemming, the guy who makes thermal expansion, who was kind enough to stop by and explain a solution for our dilemma. Now if you'll recall in the previous episode, I'll open up the machine here, we had this set to a combined output. So the primary and the secondary yield were all basically lumped together and would be coming out one side. The only trouble was the pneumatic tubes wouldn't connect to that side, and what he suggested is if you set this to the no color output, then the tubes will connect. So you can see here, it's still got a square hole, it's still got the 4 points, but there's no color. That's not to be confused with the blank side like these ones. So the no color output will allow the tubes to connect. Now the downside to this, if you want to call it that, is that the output won't be automatically ejected into the tubes with the no color output. The upside, of course, is that we can bypass the need for buffers and relays and all kinds of other stuff, connect them directly to the machines, and then since we were already set up to use a retriever to pull the output anyways, we just eliminated an unnecessary step. So a big thanks to King Lemming for explaining that for us. So we can go ahead and use the uncolored output, connect our tubes directly, and then proceed as normal. That was kind of cool. So the rest of the episode, we're going to be talking about the automated sorting end of things. We did the processing end of things, and now it's time to talk about sorting. And I've got a very rudimentary setup here so that I can kind of illustrate what I have in mind. Now, some of the feedback that I've received from people, ideas, questions, were along the lines of how they could scale things down. Like, for example, they don't want one machine for every material they're processing. I can understand how a person might be in that position because they don't have the materials or the space right now to do one machine for every material, or they just don't want one machine for every material and they're looking for a shortcut, you cheap bastards. One way or the other, I can understand scaling down, and the system does scale down fairly well. The only thing is, if you are trying to jam more than one material through one machine, you want to keep an eye on it, make sure that it's not getting misfed or things aren't overflowing, things of that nature. Beyond that, one of the great things about this system is that it's scalable upwards pretty much infinitely for all practical intents and purposes, just by adding the things that you need. If you need more machines, you add more machines with filters telling the tube network what goes into that machine. If you need more storage, you add more chests with filters telling the tube network what goes into that chest. It really is that simple, and I just basically gave away this whole process right now. I kind of had it in my mind that I was going to need 3 or 4 episodes to explain everything that I wanted to about the sorting and processing to give you guys enough to work with. At the end of this episode, we'll be done. It's not to say we'll be done with REDPOWER, just the sorting and processing. You'll have everything you need to get your system set up and working very, very well. So I'm going to start from the beginning, which is a good place to start in most cases. You notice I've got another ender chest. You bugger. He's mad at me. He warps into my base and he's mad at me. And he doesn't even give me an ender pearl. What a jerk. I actually had to go farming for ender pearls so that I could make the ender chest that I needed to finish this off. So you can see this ender chest here. The white is the coating. This is going to be the primary input for my whole system. If I've got quarries running, they'll be feeding into here. If I've got mega turtles out in the field, they'll be feeding into here. My personal inventory all goes into here. If you want a different setup, say for example you want to add the mods for teleport pipes, whatever you want to use that means you don't need ender chests, then you don't need an ender chest. But this is just the starting point. You need some place to put the items that are going to work their way through your system. Now, in my case, I've got 2 filters pulling from this chest, and the reason for that is because I just wanted to illustrate that this system is designed to handle very large volume. It doesn't have to handle very large volume, but it can. So one of the things that I wanted to keep in mind, at least for myself, is that this ender chest is only 27 slots, which, for example, dumping my personal inventory into there is not a problem. But if I get, like, for example, 4 quarries plus a mega turtle or two, plus my own personal inventory all going in at once, I want to be able to empty that sucker as fast as I possibly can to prevent any kind of overflow issues. So you could conceivably hook 6 filters up to one chest, pulling every half second, all from one timer, or even better, a wireless receiver, creating the pulse, and you have no problems whatsoever. Now you'll notice a funky looking tube here. If you've never seen a restriction tube for REDPOWER 2 pipes or tubes, that's what this is, and it's really easy to make. It's just a normal pneumatic tube with an iron ingot, makes a restriction tube. And what this does is it basically makes it so that items don't really ever want to go past that. They will if they have to. If they have nowhere else to go, they'll go through that. So in this case, the filter pulls an item out of the chest. The item has to go through there. There's nowhere else for it to go. But it can't come back around here and backstuff this filter, which probably wouldn't happen anyways. But for a couple of iron ingots, I've just bought myself some insurance. I know that I'm not going to get backstuffed filters. So we've got the chest providing the input to the facilities, the filters pulling them out into this tube here, and now we've got this really slick automatic processing system, but it doesn't do us any good if we aren't feeding it. So that's what we're set up to do here. Now in this case, I'm just set up very, very simply. The idea is when you expand and grow, you can add to this system very simply just by doing what we're going to do now. See, I've got a filter with a piece of iron ore, because that's all I had to test with was iron ore. The filter's going to grab any iron ore that goes by here, and it's going to put it into this chest. This chest is coded black, white, white, which corresponds to the ender chest that feeds the thermal expansion machines downstairs. If I wanted to, I could add, for example, copper ore, tin ore, silver ore, gold ore, wood, both kinds of wood, lead, you know, whatever. And if I run out of slots, I can put another filter here beside it, connect that to the chest, and then start filling up the slots in that one. So basically, as long as I can extend tubes and connect more filters and run those into the chest, I can add whatever I want and send it through this chest to wherever this chest happens to go. If I don't have any filters here specifying a destination for a particular kind of item, they're just going to mosey on by, and they're going to come along here to my chests. And you can see this is the exact setup that I have with all of our processing machines, is a filter with the input side facing the pipe connected to a chest. So whatever I put in this filter, in this case I've got iron ingots and pulverized ferrous dust, any iron ingots or pulverized ferrous dust that passes through this tube network is going to go directly into that chest, unless the chest is full, in which case it'll keep going. Now one of the key things that I want to point out, actually there's a couple of key things. One, it's a continuous network. So even though the tubes branch off, like you can see here, it comes along and it goes up, and then it goes across, and it keeps going all the way across, but it also branches down. Even though it branches, it's still one continuous tube network, and it goes all the way across, and then when it gets down here, it continues all the way down here. We're going to talk about what this is for momentarily, but that's very important, is to have it one continuous tube. Right? Like I said, it doesn't matter if it branches, doesn't matter if they run side by side, it's just got to be one continuous tube, and that way the items will be able to distribute properly the way you've set them up to be. The other thing that I want to point out is that I have access to this area in the back. I haven't walled it off, and I'm not going to wall it off, and nor should you, because this is where you're going to come if you want to change the configuration for your filters, store different items in different chests, add chests and filters to your network, whatever. You want to be able to get in behind here. And the last thing is that you'll notice I've got a space between every two columns. So I've got a space and then two columns and then a space. And then if I were to add another column of chests, it would be here, and then there would be a space, two more, then a space. You could also do this horizontally, and the same thing would apply. You would have 2 rows and then a space. Sorry, you would have 1 row and then a space, then 2, and then a space, then 2, and then a space. The reason is I'll just show you very quickly here. I want to have a completely separate tube network in between here that connects all of the chests without having to go through the filters. And this is actually going to be for our automatic crafting setup, which I'll be showing you in a future episode, but I just want you to be set up now so you can see here this tube is connecting this chest, you know, this column of chests and this column of chests. And then I do another one here, so this column and this column are accounted for. You want all of the chests connected, and then, you know, to finish connecting, I could do along here, or I can do whatever. You got the idea. That's as simple as I can make it, and we'll be covering that very, very soon. So that's for your setup for your chests. Make sure that I don't wreck the stuff in the back. So what we've got here, just very quickly because I half forgot what I was talking about. We've got stuff coming in from the chest. If we want to send it off for processing, the filters here will tell it so. Send it into that chest. If not, it'll pass through this tube network and into any chest as directed by the filters. So this chest will get the iron ingots and the pulverized ferrous dust. Any item that is not claimed by a filter on this network will come along here. And this is where we put our overflow. Now, early on, if you're just getting your network set up, I would suggest having like a long tube like this and as many chests as you can scrounge up so that anything that goes through your network that doesn't have an assigned home is going to end up in here, and then you can take a look at it. You can say, okay, I need to find a home for this, I need to find a home for that. Also, it's good to have an overflow even after you're pretty confident that you've got your network set up, because if a chest overfills, that's going to be your warning, is that you'll be able to see in a chest that you've got a bunch of extra iron ingots, for example, that shouldn't be there because they should be in this chest over here, which, oh, it's full. So it gives you an opportunity to see it, address it before it becomes a problem that involves tons of lag or items despawning on the floor. So that's it. Like I say, I would like to make it more complicated for you. I know that there are people who will put more complicated solution in the comment section. I don't want to make it needlessly complicated because that just makes it needlessly intimidating. If you can master this, then you can build the complications on it as you see fit. Now, just to give you an idea of how it's going to work, we're going to use the last of my iron ore. I dump it in here. You can see right away gets pulled in. It's already going the right direction because it had nowhere to go over there. But the filter says yom, yom, yom. Into the chest it goes, and now I can already tell you it's downstairs working its way to the pulverizers, where it will pulverize, and then it will work its way across to the retriever once it's pulverized into dust, be sent into an ender chest, and from there we'll end up by the furnaces upstairs. We'll get some ingots, we might even get some pulverized ferrous dust back out, and we should be seeing the first of those any second now. Please don't make a liar out of me, Mr. Sorting System. Normally, you wouldn't be standing here waiting for it to happen. You would just have faith that you had done a good job, you had set it all up properly. There we go. And you can see with the iron ingots, this filter doesn't want iron ingots, but this one does. So they're going to putter on down here, and in they go. Hey, I left some pipes lying around. And that's, I mean, that's it. Sometimes, like I've said in the past episode, I think some people expect it to be so complicated that when you show them how simple it can be, they're like, what did you not tell me? What am I missing? So I would suggest you, honestly, just try it out. You know, if you want to, just try it out with a few chests, with the filters, you know, control which items are going through, what you're processing, what you're storing. And then if you're happy with it, if you're confident that you got a handle on what's going on, that's when you can start to expand. You add more chests, more filters, more items to process, more machines. On and on it goes until before you know it, you can process anything that you want to process. It's going to get stored where you want it stored. And then when you want to craft stuff, you just go for it. So that's actually probably what we're going to be talking about in the next episode. I want to do two things. I want to talk about how to remotely charge blue electric batteries. We're going to set up a very simple system so that if you've got blue electric batteries off in a field somewhere, you can keep those charged. And then we're going to talk about automated crafting, just the very basics of how to set up an automated crafting system, pulling the items you need, combining them, managing the output. You're almost a pro. Actually, you're probably already a pro. You just don't know it. So I hope this has been helpful. If you want, leave your comments below the video. If you want to be notified when I add the next video, the easiest way to do that is to subscribe to my channel. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and take care.